So now that we have the those drawings, we need to do some of the shapes on the inside. So let's just start. I'm start right here. There's a big fat one right here. There's this big kind of a circular sort of a thing right here. Now you can plot these out if you want, or you can just kind of eyeball it, see how it goes. And so these are the value shapes that are going to help me. So when I create my drawing, it'll be more like almost like a coloring book sort of a thing. I'm just going to fill the colors in with the values, and I'm going to be ready to rock and roll on those. And so that's kind of coming there. There's a little bit of a thing like that. There's a little bit of a yellow shape right in through here. And so I'm just going to be filling in these pieces as well. Okay, now there's another little hoo-ha-ha right here. There's a piece that's coming down here. It's pretty thin down here, but then thicker right in this area. It looks kind of like a hammer or something like that that connects in with that. And as you start to put those in, you're going to have some good references on what to do to create this whole masterpiece you're working on here. Down underneath, looks like there's some little pieces underneath here too. And a lot of artists do this, especially if you're doing watercolors or something like that, and you really need to know exactly where things are. With oils, sometimes you can push and pull, right? You can, or acrylics, because if you make a mistake, you can just paint over it, right? With watercolors, it's a little bit more exacting, and so you can't make much of a mistake. So it's helpful to have at least a little bit of a guide so that you can know where to put your watercolor paints. And so that's why I'm suggesting the idea of, at least, of maybe having some value shapes in here somewhere so that you can know where you're putting your paints or your pastels in this thing. As I mentioned, we'll be using oil pastels for our value application with those. I think that'll be kind of cool. I wanted to get into doing something with some color for us with those, so that'll be fun. At least I think it's going to be fun. We're going to stick with values, though. That's kind of the key with this sort of a thing, is it is about the values, not as much about the color. Color has three parts to it. There's the color itself, and that's kind of the chroma, right? The color, so red, blue, whatever you're going to call that. And then you have the other thing is the value on that. There is value associated with it, right? There's a light red, sometimes we call that pink. There's a dark red, maybe we call that maroon, but they have different values in them, right, that we're looking at. And so knowing those different values, you can come up with a light red, a medium red, and a dark red on those. And so if you have three different values of a given color, you can create this, you can create a drawing, right, of applying your values with that color. I mention that because the goblets, as we see here, they're kind of goldish in color, right? But if you look at it, there are kind of some greens in there, and browns and yellows. Greens, browns, and yellows. In addition, if there might be some whites in there as well with those. So that's kind of a deal. I'm down to the cast shadow here as it's coming off to the side. And so that's our plan as we start to put in these things, is we're going to identify maybe 3 or 4 different pastels that we're going to use to create the drawing of the goblet. And so we're going to use those in the light, the medium, and the dark areas as we create those on that. Okay, let's go back up here again for more value shapes. There's a few more in here. That's kind of cool. And so the real key for creating drawings, paintings, that sort of a thing when you're dealing with color is don't be overly concerned with the color. The specific color can be kind of cool and stuff, but be more concerned about the values of that color and that they actually transition on there from lights to mediums to darks on your stuff that you're drawing on those. So this one's pretty good so far. Yeah, I've mapped out a lot of areas in here where I can put in those values, and I'm just doing what I'm doing on this one. I'm just kind of like, I'll identify this and I'll try and know that this is a little bit of a dip shape like that. It looks like there's a little bit of a golden piece that's sticking up above here like this. And just by looking at this, then I look at this, I make a mark. I look at this, I look at this, I make a mark. I go down here, I look at this, I look at this, I make a mark, and then we come up here. Now this one doesn't have as much space as this one does, so I'm going to cut it a little bit short on that little golden area. Then this one, I'm looking here, I'm looking at that curve come down like that. Comes pretty close to this piece here, just skims by this guy, comes down here towards the bottom, like that, and forms of that. There's a little piece right here that kind of comes up and in. And so I'm going to account for that. Back over here, now we have this other big shape here, that this darker one here, and so I want a little room on the side here as it comes down. It does come down pretty close to the bottom. It kind of divides this in half here. Has some little wiggly shapes. I'm not going to get overly concerned about making sure every wiggly shape is accounted for. But I'll try and count for some of them here as it comes up, and I'm just kind of following around. Looking here, then looking here, look here, as I finish out that particular part of the drawing. Like there was a little island in here somewhere too. Now on top over here there was a little bit of a thingy in through here, and then this one had also a little up part here, a light part, and it's gradually getting darker as it comes up and over, and then that one, and then this one. And then that is coming kind of down here. This one has a little bit of the darker spot right here, comes over, comes down, maybe a little bit of a jewel in there somewhere. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Let's pop down here. Looks like there's a darker piece that's kind of sits down here like that, right there. This is almost divided in half. You have a light side and a dark side to it. So on there we divide that in half a little bit, and then on the light side we have a funky triangle there, and a little bit of another place up there with that. And then this one also has a darker area inside of that divide on those. Down here, let's do it again. There's this little part here that's the light part, and then it kind of divides into half as it comes down. And then there's slight segmentations there. I'm going to put at least one in so I can see that happening. There's a little triangle here again down at the bottom, like we have this area. These are light areas, 1, 2, 3, 4 down there. And then there's another one actually down on the base here. So as we follow those down. This one kind of comes in, shoots out to the side, goes down, but then comes back in again. And then there's a little dark mark over here, and there's a little dark area right in here, like that. Alright, this is coming up and around. So let's go to this part here. This is this darker gray area, and it's going to loop around like that, and then come back in there, and then it's going to go out here like that, How crazy, and this is kind of coming out to the side like that. And so that has a bigger portion right there. Now this one part is going to come down here and do some wiggling around and then be headed out towards the side out over here. Take that out a little wider. Okay, and now so this one has that little bitty piece sticking out like this one does right off of this piece. And that. Make sure these are kind of going in the same direction. There's a little bit of a darker area that comes down, not quite that far out. And then this one has a little bit of a, and then that shoots out there. And then there's this little piece here. I've got to make sure these are kind of going in the same direction. This one here and this one here. Kind of like that. Okay, do we get all my little inside pieces? So now I have a map. I have a pretty good guide of where to put things, you know, as I start filling in my values. I'm not going to put in the values today because I know some people are not quite ready for that. If you are, you're welcome to start with those. Here, let me do this real quick. Hold on. So that's a good job on that one.